Hi, and welcome to Heroes of Marketing Cloud, the show where we interview Salesforce Marketing Cloud experts. My name is Anthony Lamot, and I'll be your host for today. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DSelect, and today I'll interview Jason Trout, who runs BoldRamp, a Salesforce Marketing Cloud consulting firm. Hey, Jason, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot. Glad to be here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thank you for making the time. Just for the sake of for our audience, could you introduce yourself? What is it that you do?
Yeah, sure. My name is Jason Trout. I'm the principal at BoldRamp, and we are a consultancy that focuses on Salesforce Marketing Cloud. So we do a lot of new implementations, advisory support, and ongoing campaign services for clients.
And is there a specific differentiator, a strength, something that you're really proud of that BoldRamp does?
I think we have a lot of experience. So we have a lot of senior consultants that do a lot of good work. And I think sometimes you can run into some consultancies that might have more junior consultants and don't really invest in the people as much as they should to create quality work. And so I think that's something that we really focus on, is ensuring that we're working with top talent that is proven and can deliver great results for clients.
For sure. And I'd love to dig deeper into the top talent, but maybe before we get there, how did you end up doing this? How did BoldRamp came to be?
Yeah, sure. So I've always been in some type of marketing or marketing technology role. But my marketing cloud journey started maybe in 2015 on the client side. And, I think anyone that's been in marketing their entire career, they can probably relate that over time, your role gets a little bit more technical. So I found myself in a marketing technology group on the client side. And when I joined, we didn't have Marketing Cloud, but I worked very closely with the marketing team, and they had all of these dreams of personalized emails and automation, and their platform just couldn't get them there. So we spun up a project to replace it. And I led that implementation from the business side, working closely with an implementation partner. And after we were set up and I was more of the product owner of the platform, I sat back and said, "Hey, I think I can do that consulting thing." And so looked into that path, and partner took a chance on me, and I haven't looked back. So I've been consulting for Marketing Cloud projects since 2017. But then again, somewhere along the way, I sat back and said, "I think I can do this thing on my own," and finally stepped out to start BoldRamp in 2020. A little advice for anyone looking to do that: try not to do it right before the entire world shuts down with a global pandemic. Not the best timing, but here we are, and wouldn't change a thing.
Well, I'm sure that if you go through something like that at the start of your enterprise or of your entrepreneurial journey, then it will certainly harden yourself. And if you've been able to go through a pandemic, then I'm sure you're in good shape afterwards for anything else that the world can throw at you. What's interesting to me is that you originally were on the marketing side. For someone like myself, who's been for most of his career on the consulting side before starting DSelect, I can imagine you would have a lot of strengths coming from the marketing side, like you actually know what marketing is and how to do a campaign. Many consultants actually do not. But I can imagine there were also challenges. What would you say were some of those biggest challenges coming from the marketing side to the more technology side, especially since we may have people on the audience today who are considering such a move?
Sure. I think when I was on the client side in my marketing roles, it was easy to surround myself with more technical folks that could do things that I couldn't do. And you kind of get comfortable with that because you don't have to do it. In consulting, as you know, things are thrown at you, right? You're going to have to learn to do things that you didn't know how to do yesterday. And so for me, depending on which partner that I worked for in the past or what project I'm on, I might have a technical resource and I might not. So it's really being faced with those use cases where you have no choice. You're going to have to figure it out. And if you're going to be successful as a consultant, there are roles, more strategy roles, right? But when you're talking about Marketing Cloud, very quickly, you're going to figure out that you're going to need to learn some AMP script. You're going to need to know how to write SQL to actually be impactful on a project. So that was difficult, but again, I feel like I didn't just take the initiative and go learn it at night. What happened was I was faced with the requirement on projects. Then I stayed up all night figuring that out. So it was being presented with challenges and just figuring it out along the way.
Absolutely. That part does seem very recognizable, by the way. I have very similar experiences in my initial Marketing Cloud experiences as I start to realize like, wow, this thing is super capable and flexible, but highly technical. And I sort of had to
Right.
teach myself SQL on the fly, which eventually led to, DSlick being founded. You mentioned something interesting earlier about talent and how you like to work with very experienced talent. Now, it won't come as a surprise to most of our listeners that finding great Marketing Cloud talent is not that easy. What makes BoldRamp interesting for experienced talent? And I'll just add one more thing. We were just discussing before we started the interview that you work with Jenna Madsen, who's a superstar in my eyes and has been on this show. So how do you find people like Jenna to work with?
Yeah, and that's a great example of top talent that we work with, right? I think to find the top talent, it comes a lot of different ways. Just being involved in the ecosystem for a long time, you get to know people that may or may not be in on the market looking for a job, but you get to know the people to ask of that you trust in their abilities. You trust them to refer people to you as well. So I think it's just time in the ecosystem is the important thing there. And for BoldRamp, we don't have a whole lot of full-time people, right? Our model right now is to work with contract consultants, because that's the way that we can attract top talent, is because there are great contract resources out there, ones that we can't afford right now, right? And so the way that we're able to deliver great results for our clients is working with this top talent. Now, on the business side, our margins might be smaller, but our impact is bigger, and we're getting those success stories because we're able to put together this team that's proven, that can deliver great results for the clients.
So you're optimizing for impact right now.
100%.
That's great. So throughout your career, what's been the most interesting Marketing Cloud project you've seen, the most interesting hack maybe? What was really fascinating for you to do?
Yeah, I think the most interesting Marketing Cloud project that I've worked on, I have to go back to one of my previous roles at another consultancy. We were working with a large payroll company, and we were working specifically with their small business unit. So this business unit focused on small businesses anywhere from 1 employee to 10 employees. And what made it so unique is that before the introduction of an online experience and before the introduction of Marketing Cloud, this process for a small business owner was through 100% human interaction, right? Calling the call center, registering, onboarding, payment, everything was through the call center. And what the project was to essentially do a complete 180, right? And make it 100% digital. Small business owners don't have time to be on the phone over multiple weeks to, buy a software like that to do something in their business. So thankfully, we had a incredibly capable client that really owned the experience on the web. And what we did was stand up Marketing Cloud, integrated with Sales Cloud, to really facilitate all those milestones throughout that experience, which is registering and qualification, onboarding, entering all of your employees' information, paying, and ultimately running your first payroll, all without talking to a human. So that was truly transformational for that business unit. And typically when we're implementing Marketing Cloud, we're replacing another marketing automation platform, right? They're jumping from one to the other. This is the only time in my career where there wasn't one, right? So it really was starting from scratch and building the best experience. And we didn't have any legacy processes to worry about how it's going to translate to Marketing Cloud. We built it from scratch. So that was certainly one of the more interesting projects.
That's fascinating. Although I imagine there must have been a huge part of education on your side too, with regards to the organization, if they had never done any marketing automation or even email marketing whatsoever.
Yeah, I think education was a big part of it, but also what made this one unique is that I've never had a client more prepared for us to show up for our discovery, right? They had already thought about the online experience and had designs for us to walk us through the flow of what they envisioned the experience to look like, and even had some journey designs prepared, right? Usually we're whiteboarding that, and it's the first time they've really thought about what this journey is going to look like, and they've already given it a shot. Now, they didn't turn out the way that they designed them because they weren't familiar with Marketing Cloud and all the capabilities of Journey Builder, for example. But it was an incredible start. So it was luckily in this case, the client was one of the best to work with and was really prepared. So picking up Marketing Cloud and running with it after we implemented it was not going to be a problem for them.
That's amazing. I've rarely heard something like that myself. I also think that even if they didn't know the capabilities of Marketing Cloud and some of the original journeys that were drafted could not be executed, I still believe that would have been very useful for that client just to think through the process. If only because if you've done an exercise like that and then later you're in a workshop with a consultant and you've done that exercise before, you just feel more involved. You just basically pay more attention, give more feedback because you've already had to think about it. So I think that could be really good advice for any client, really.
Definitely. And I think, it doesn't matter what the platform is, some things are not going to change, right? The customers are going to go through an experience. They're going to have certain milestones throughout that journey. So it doesn't matter what marketing automation platform we're talking about. Some of that can be thought through. And so when you're bringing that to the table, it just makes things happen a lot faster. And so then you're talking about ultimately, what does that mean? That time to value is decreased, and you're seeing value faster. And so now the consultants look like geniuses when it was really your preparation.
I think time to value is maybe a great bridge to another thing I wanted to discuss: user adoption. What have you find to be the biggest challenges? And it could be at this client, but even more generally speaking, throughout projects, what is typically a big challenge to user adoption of Marketing Cloud?
Yeah, so I think in terms of adoption, a couple of things that come to mind are data and people. So what I mean by data is Marketing Cloud can only do so much if you don't have the right data, right? So I think in terms of adoption, it's going to be slower if you're not prepared with the data that you're going to need to power Marketing Cloud. So let me give you an example. When at one of my previous jobs, the delivery team, I was the solution architect on the team. We show up for on-site discovery over a few days. And when we get to the data discussion, it's clear that we're going to integrate with Salesforce CRM. But when we start digging into that, we uncover that there are tons of initiatives to fix their data. They were in the middle of a Salesforce CRM implementation that was 6 months before they understood what the entire data model looked like. So it's understanding what you're going to need to power Marketing Cloud and starting at the right time. Mm-hmm. And if you're not going to have all of that in place when you're starting a Marketing Cloud implementation, it's really about trade-offs, right? Are you going to do what you can today and you're going to rework later? Or are you going to delay the Marketing Cloud implementation and keep on doing what you're doing until you're ready to go. So I think that just not being organized and prepared for the data piece of the implementation slows that adoption and seeing value from the platform. And the second thing, I think clients need to invest in their people, right? Marketing Cloud is a big tool, robust tool, flexible tool, but with that comes some complexity that your team probably hasn't worked with, as much with other platforms. And so you're going to have to invest in your people. And the earlier you can do that, the better adoption is going to be. So that might be training your existing staff. It might be maybe you need a new hire, someone that's worked with Marketing Cloud before, or understanding that maybe you have to invest in services from a partner like BoldRamp or contract consultants to help you with that, to get stood up faster, and get your team ready to go to maintain it and continue to optimize what you're doing with Marketing Cloud.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't think I would recommend any customer to start with Marketing Cloud without involving a system integrator who knows what they're doing, just because as a customer, you're only going to implement Marketing Cloud once, but there's so many nuances and details and design decisions you have to make that it's going to be hard to know what to do right, because you've never had the learning experience and never had the chance to fail. System integrators have tried multiple things and they'll know. I also like how you put the trade-off between essentially getting started quickly and maybe having a perfect architecture. I do think many companies, they're prone to fall into the trap of analysis paralysis here. It might be better to start with an MVP, just because the faster I feel that the end user is starting to get their hands on Marketing Cloud, the better they understand the actual capabilities, and the more thoughtful and smart they can be with regards to the next of the roadmap.
Yeah, no, I think the important thing you mentioned there is an MVP, right? It's starting somewhere, making progress, getting your hands dirty in the tool and starting to use it and see how it works. Again, that's going to help with the adoption, right? But at some point, it's like, all right, this is, we're building out way too much in Marketing Cloud to where this is going to be another 4-month project whenever we do have the data in the places that we need it and Marketing Cloud ready. So yeah, I think it's certainly a decision that has to be made, but you're certainly right. What we don't want is Marketing Cloud to be on the shelf for months and months and months, and then it's time for a contract renewal, and they're like, well, it's not valuable to me. Well, yeah, because we're not using it yet because we did not know how to get started.
Yeah, and that happens more often than you might imagine. I know of one case where Marketing Cloud was sitting on the shelf for more than a year, and knowing the license cost that specific company were paying for, that's a pity.
Yeah, it's funny. I was just at an event in Dallas and was talking to someone that works on a client side, and their Marketing Cloud was on the shelf for 2 years.
Wow,
just because it was behind some other initiatives and didn't ever get prioritized. But thankfully they were able to actually start implementing and show some value before it was time to ask for another signature to renew.
Was that the higher ed event by Salesforce by any chance?
No, actually it was North Dallas Salesforce meetup group. That they have a monthly meeting, and I was their guest attendee last week.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, we just started the user group in Austin for marketers, specifically for Marketing Cloud. We're probably going to do
awesome.
Yeah, thanks. We're probably going to do a next event with the Parted user group following Dreamforce. Yeah, those user groups are fantastic to share knowledge, to share best practices, war stories, and whatnot. By the way, I realized earlier we've been throwing around the phrase MVP. I guess most people on the show today will know what it is, but just in case, MVP stands for minimum viable product. It's your first version of a product, which could also be an implementation of Marketing Cloud. Talking about maybe in that staying with that theme a little bit about MVPs and expanding. your marketing cloud over time. I sounds like very interesting on your profile, Jason. Tell us about the marketing cloud impact score, please.
Yeah, sure. So the Marketing Cloud Impact Score is something we developed to try to focus where current clients of Salesforce Marketing Cloud know where to focus. I think what we see a lot is that the need for an audit for clients, and the reason is because maybe there's a new leader that is in charge of Marketing Cloud, or maybe there's been some turnover on the team and they're not really sure what was built by the previous partner, or what's working, what's not. Why do they have this data? Why does it look like that? And so there's a lot that they kind of just need help from someone with deep expertise in the platform to figure out for them, give them recommendations, provide a roadmap of how to improve things. But that comes at a cost. And I think that there's a way with the Marketing Cloud Impact Score. It's essentially 20 questions going through, asking you about various categories of Marketing Cloud, right? Your team, your strategy, your customer experience, your utilization across Marketing Cloud. And what it does is it gives you a score, an overall score, but scores broken down by 4 categories. And it's very obvious where you're going to need some improvement, right? So if you're looking for improvement, that will give you a place to say, look, this is probably something we need to focus on this quarter. These other areas, sure, we can always improve something, but this is a place that we need to focus right now to see improvement tomorrow.
I love that. Are there common issues you find amongst clients who take this score?
What's that again?
Are there common themes you find amongst people who are taking this test and who have their impact score calculated? What are the common issues you see?
Yeah, I think, one of the areas is data. And, data's vague, right? But some of the things that we run into, and also when we're doing these audits for clients, is way too many times there are deliverability issues. And again, I think it's just because there's some turnover on the team and they haven't really been trained properly on how to set up sendable data extensions. So then you have, tons of duplicate subscribers and they're not really monitoring the way that they should. And so there are a lot of clients out there that are going through the motions and not getting the results that they need because they're not able to uncover things like deliverability issues. So that's one that we run into. And then of course, duplicate contacts. I ran into a client, we did an audit for a couple of years ago, and I found an example to be able to articulate my point around their data. The same individual was in all subscribers 27 different times. Same email address, but 27 different subscriber keys. And so, obviously someone was just not trained, fully capable, but just not trained in the way to actually, import subscribers and those types of things. So there were some data issues, but, can you think about what that customer experience is like? I think 3 or 4 of them were opted out. So there's still 23 different times that this person could get an email and trying to unsubscribe. Well, at that point, they're not unsubscribing. They're marking you as spam. And so that again hurts your deliverability. So, certainly a lot of data problems that we run into, and duplicate subscribers, deliverability.
That's a crazy story about the 17 contacts. I think the best way to think about this is Marketing Cloud is ultimately a data-driven platform. So if the data is wrong or not just good enough, at least, it's not going to go well. Here too, though, I find there can be analysis paralysis. Sometimes people are waiting for like the perfect data or the perfect data enrichment. That is not always necessary. But whatever the case, I do appreciate how Salesforce has released some more data deletion features in the last couple of years. And I think they were only driven by data privacy regulations, but at least they also help reducing contact counts because you're built based on how many contacts you have, of course. Nonetheless, we find a lot of interest in for deselect segments, deduplication capabilities. because you can do quite advanced stuff when it comes to duplication. The example you give it, for instance, is a duplicate based on email address with the same subscriber key, but there's all sorts of duplicates. You can also have duplicates with different keys, same email address, or duplicates, same person, different key, right. But different context, like a phone number and an email. Yeah, all that stuff. So it's kind of fascinating how far it can go. So when someone says we got duplicates, I like to ask first, like, okay, what kind of duplicates? Give me some examples, right? Because you really have to dig a little deeper there.
Yeah, definitely. And then it's figuring out the source of that, right? Is it in another system, or are you somehow introducing those into Marketing Cloud with your processes and fixing it at the source?
And that's the biggest challenge I find when the problem is really upstream. It might, maybe the data was already wrong in the data lake from which it originated, and then marketing just have to solve it. And then you could expect, oh, well, the data lake stuff has to fix it, but realistically, especially in enterprise context, it might take years or never. And then I feel it's more up to marketing to be able to, what I like to call, do data staging in the Marketing Cloud environment. And for that purpose, I think that Marketing Cloud does lend itself wonderfully. You have to be careful, you have to be sensible, you have to be governance. You can really screw yourself up if you're not careful by making things too complex. But the flexibility does allow you to do some data magic in the marketing automation platform without having to be reliant on BI people, data scientists, you name it.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that goes back to doing what you can do with Marketing Cloud, right? And if again, that project to clean that up in some other system is not even on the board, could be a year or two out, right? Well, you can't sit around and wait for that to happen. You have to take responsibility in Marketing Cloud with what you have, and using those, that staging data, come up with the data that you're actually going to use for your campaigns.
Yeah, interesting. I've even had a client that didn't have consistent definitions. And I think that's not really a unique problem to this client. I think this will happen to many clients, like customer lifetime value, for instance. Does it mean the same thing to the finance department, to the BI people, to the data scientists, to the marketers, to sales? Because maybe across the various systems that these user groups are using, the definitions might be slightly different, the calculation might be slightly different. And so you may have different numbers for the same customer, for instance, customer lifetime value. And I think you can have this for all kinds of things. So even getting data definitions straight across systems and teams seems to be very, very challenging sometimes.
Definitely.
Just taking a step back, looking a bit wider at the overall Marketing Cloud community, Jason, what do you think is the biggest what is the biggest challenge in the Marketing Cloud community that nobody's talking about?
Well, my answer might be different because of where I sit on the partner side, but I think one of the biggest challenges in the Marketing Cloud community, from a partner perspective, is we're seeing too many botched implementations. So, we were talking about earlier around time to value, right? Well, that's certainly blowing that up. And that's not good for the ecosystem, right? There, historically, for the last, 5, 7, 8 years, it's been a great place to be in terms of, pay and jobs. And I think in order to keep it that way, we have to find ways to ensure that implementations are successful the first time around. So we, as a partner, we clean up a lot of those messes. So, I could just say, well, great, right? Keep on, messing up those implementations because we're getting work from it. But that's short-sighted, right? We need more customers to see successful outcomes from their initial implementation partner, because guess what? They're talking to their peers in the same industry, telling them if they've had a great experience with Marketing Cloud, or if, really they're not seeing the value from it, so they're going to move on or go back to the legacy platform or whatever. So that's one of the issues that I see. And, I think that the responsibility of that, I think, it's shared across Salesforce partners and the client, right? So on the Salesforce side, you have your RVPs and their team of 5 to 8 account executives, and they kind of have their favorites, right? They have their 3 or 4 partners that they like to use. So in this case, marketing cloud partners that do that really well, maybe. But maybe they're using them because they're really easy to co-sell with, or they're really flexible when it comes to pricing or whatever, so they're able to close deals faster. And I think more focus needs to be put on, well, how are they delivering, right? What are the clients saying 3 or 4 months down the road? And when they're hearing a trend that this partner isn't delivering, well, it's time to cycle them out and replace them with another partner that can do some quality work. And then on the partner side, I think partners need to make a choice. If they're going to stand up a marketing cloud practice, they really need to invest in it, invest in understanding the tool that is different from Salesforce, investing in good talent, ensuring that that talent stays trained up, and you're giving them opportunities to grow and learn and really perfect their craft. The other choice is to say no, right? We say no to CRM projects. You're not going to see us doing a field service lightning project anytime soon. And so if you're not going to invest in the practice properly and ensure that you're delivering good results, then maybe it's not the time to take on marketing cloud work. And then lastly, for the client, the client, they're getting recommendations from Salesforce, as they should. They're having conversations with partners, as they should. But one thing that I don't think I see enough is the client saying, "Okay, partner, you showed me your slide of logos, right? And I recognize a lot of them. That's great. But when were those projects, right? Were those 7 years ago, or was that last year? How many of those consultants are still around? And most importantly, you might be able to do great work, but who are the individual consultants that are going to make up the team that are delivering for me, right?
Absolutely. I'm so glad you said that.
I don't
totally
care
agree.
if you've been successful in the past with these other consultants that are busy or have moved on. Who's working on my project? And sure, I don't know everything about Marketing Cloud, but I'm going to be able to have an opportunity to vet them to see if they have what it takes to lead a Marketing Cloud project for me.
Absolutely. I was going to add, but you beat me to the punch, that interview the consultants, the main consultants, at least, like the leads or the seniors, especially the ones with the technical knowledge. The project management knowledge, I think that can be assumed if there's a project manager involved, but the technical knowledge, because that's what's going to make the difference, right? Along there, you mentioned something kind of offhand, which is actually really important for customers to understand. And I don't think a lot of customers understand it. And that has to do with the difference between Salesforce CRM and the Marketing Cloud. And you even wrote a wonderful post about that some time ago. I saw it pass by. Could you just elaborate a little bit on what that difference is?
Yeah, it's a completely different tech stack, right? Like it's 100% different. I think I said in my post, the most, or the thing they have in most common is the word Salesforce, right? We have to remember that Salesforce acquired Salesforce Marketing Cloud, right? It was called ExactTarget. We've been talking about, is Marketing Cloud going to be built on the Force.com platform for a decade, right? It hasn't happened yet. Now, we saw some things at Connections that make us think, well, okay, maybe the time is now. But it certainly hasn't been for the past decade since they acquired ExactTarget, and it's completely different. I can't count how many times we've done a project, and Salesforce team members on the client side are just cannot believe that we don't have a sandbox, right? There's so many differences, and it takes a different skill set. We go back to marketing, right? Mm-hmm. To have a team member that has experience in just marketing, not necessarily technology, to add to that as well. So they're very different. And just as I sure hope no one would hire me to do a CRM project, same thing goes the other way. Let's ensure that we're looking at consultants that have deep expertise in Marketing Cloud specifically.
Absolutely. Thanks for elaborating on that. Connections. It's the Marketing Cloud event of the year. It's the Dreamforce for marketers. That's how I like to think of it. What was your favorite moment of Connections 2023?
Oh man, not sure I can narrow it down to a moment, but I think what I enjoyed about Connections this year, maybe more than other years, is that um, you know being able to connect with a lot of great people, right? From my team to other partners to clients and prospects, Salesforce folks. A lot of us haven't been going to a lot of events in the past few years, right? So it was just great to have time in person with a lot of folks. We co-sponsored a happy hour Wednesday at Connections, and had a great turnout, and all went out for hot pot dinner that lasted way too long after that. So that's really the value that I got out of it. And then it was great to get a glimpse of how AI is really going to transform things with marketing GPT, sales GPT, service GPT, everything GPT. So that was exciting as well.
Talking about GPT, where do you think that will go? I guess in the short run, we'll probably see some more announcements from Salesforce, and they've done a number of them at Connections, and people can find it still at Salesforce Live to watch the presentations, introductions. But of course, we already know that many of these will be kind of aspirational, or they may be more long term. What do you think might happen in the short term? What are you most excited about, and where do you think it will go in the longer run?
Yeah. So I think where we've seen generative AI impact marketers today is, I think it's more than content, but it's mostly content, right? If you're talking about what you see marketers doing with ChatGPT or marketing specific tools like Jasper, it's mostly around content generation. And the way that we're approaching it today is, we know what the output is going to be, right? We're asking for that to be produced for us. We're asking for, write me this email, and it gives us an email, given the context that we give it, or create this image, right? Video, now music, but we know what the output's going to be. And what I think is really exciting is, I think it's going to shift a little bit the way that we're communicating with generative AI. We're not going to say, give me this thing that I know you're going to give me, but it's, here's my goal, right? So for example, we want to increase conversion rates by 1%, right? Today, you would kind of dissect that, all the parts involved in your email or ad copy or website or whatever, and see where you can make some incremental improvements, what campaigns you can stand up, et cetera. Then you're going to go to generative AI and say, write this text better, give me options for a subject line, those types of things. I think in the future, it's going to be more of, this is my goal, generative AI tool, what do you got for me, right? So it's going to be able to analyze all of your email content, your performance with your email campaigns, your ad copy, all the variations of your ads, be able to understand what images you're using, what attributes you're using in those images, look at your website content, look at all of your product descriptions and everything, and say, listen, if we tweak these things, not really going to move the needle. But when we're talking about conversions specifically, if you do X, Y, and Z, we can meet, or we think that we can meet that goal within the time frame you gave me, right? So I think that's exciting in terms of content. And, I think also with segmentation, we saw a glimpse of that with marketing GPT as well. It's going to be more conversational segmentation, right? And again, aspirational, right? Like what is that going to look like for the next couple of years? Does that mean that we'll never have to go to our IT team or a more technical resource to help us out with segments? Probably not. But I do think that the reliance on someone else to get a campaign stood up is going to decrease, and you're going to be able to be empowered to do some of those things on your own with conversational segmentation. And where I think it gets really interesting is not only conversational segmentation, but then it's going to be conversational commerce, right? So if you think about the way that we shop today, I need a present for my mom for her birthday. We might Google that and come across a couple blog posts with recommendations, and not going to be relevant to my mom. In fact, it might be optimized for affiliate dollars, right? Then we might go to a commerce. I might go to Amazon, and we're searching for that product and filtering by color, brand, etc. And the results may vary, but I think where it's going is being able to go to a commerce site and saying, hey, this is a little bit about my mom. Her birthday's coming up. She's this old. She likes these types of experiences. She really hated this product I got her. This is what's important to her. And I think the results of that are going to be incredibly relevant, and it's going to really speed up that transaction because of the relevancy.
Yeah, I've heard a variation of that use case where rather than having a birthday reminder on the day itself, your personal AI assistant could actually remind you sufficiently time in advance to make some present suggestions, even figure out where to go get them, and then let you order them even through the AI itself. It's like the next level Facebook birthday reminder. I think I might actually have heard this on an interview between Lex Fridman and Zuckerberg that was published not too long ago, since obviously they're also going to integrate more and more generative AI into the Facebook itself. As for AI-driven segmentation, obviously we're super excited about that. We're integrating GPT itself, and we'll be able to deliver that capability in about a month from now. So actually, by the time this interview is live, that might be available already, and it will be in the Marketing Cloud itself, not in the Data Cloud, where Salesforce's segmentation will take place, which is a somewhat different use case. Very cool. Jason, you've been giving a ton of great advice already through this interview. Do you have any parting advice, especially for Marketing Cloud newbies or marketers in the early stage of their Marketing Cloud journey?
Yeah, I think the number one thing, I pointed out a little bit earlier with my career shifting from, the business side to a more technical role. But don't be afraid to learn new things and just dive in and figure it out, right? And I think for a Marketing Cloud newbie, you got to start with SQL and AMP script, right? Find some use cases where you actually need to use both of those. And you'll spend plenty of time on Stack Exchange, but Google is your friend, and you're going to figure it out along the way. But just dig in and figure it out. And also, don't get left behind with generative AI, right? It's not going to replace you, but another marketer that's utilizing it will. So I think it's just digging in there, not waiting for Marketing GPT to be available, but play around with Chat GPT, understand how to craft a good prompt, right? Play around with Jasper to understand that, so you're really understanding how to utilize what we're all going to have to utilize in our jobs going forward.
I think that's very solid advice. Jason, thank you so much for your time to go on the call, to share all this advice with customers and partners. I think it's very sound. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks so much for having me. It was fun.
Thank you for watching Heroes of Marketing Cloud. I hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date about future interviews with fellow marketing champions.